Hey guys, Chop here. The 3.5 Archon quest, Carrybear, was a relatively short one that didn't give us a whole lot on the Cataclysm or our sibling, but it did give us the first hint at a new potent figure, one even greater than the Archons. I am, of course, talking about the Sinner. All we really know about him is that he is a non-god but a sinner and is not bound by time or the ley lines of Teyvat. This makes him a very interesting figure to work out, but there are a few contenders. Firstly, knowing that he is not a god but with great power means that we can say he is a figure likely predating the gods. This includes a list featuring the Primordial One, his Shades, the Second Who Came, the Moon Sisters, the Sealies, the Solar Chariot, the Night Mother, the 7 Elemental Dragons, and I'm sure you get the point, a lot of very powerful people. Now, knowing his gender, he can't be one of the Moon Sisters or the Night Mother, and he also can't be Ishtaroth because of this, which wouldn't have been the worst shout because whoever this is clearly not bound by time. The Solar Chariot is a fairy tale account of the sun who fell into the chasm before returning to the sky. A bit complicated, I know, but he doesn't really have any connection to this abyssal character anyway, so I'm just going to rule it out as extremely unlikely. The elemental dragons that originated before the Primordial One are all based on the 7 primary elements that we know, which, whatever the abyss element is not one of them. We've seen Dainsleif use it in the abyssal sibling, and it's very clearly not one of the 7 like Dendro or Electro. So, it can't be some leftover residue of these dragons. This leaves the possibilities to be either the Primordial one of the other 3 Shades, the Second Who Came, or just another character we haven't heard of yet. Okay, let's just make this a 1v1 real quick between the first 2 descendants. Both are, given their otherworldly nature, not bound by the ley lines, and I would presume neither are bound by Teyvat's time either, given that both are above the god of time, Ishtaroth. Neither are gods, but are plenty more powerful, and we don't know their pronouns. However, in the book before Sun and Moon, the Primordial One actually does go by it, not he. The Second Who Came, though, is never referred to by any pronoun at all. This makes him more likely to be the second descendant, but even furthermore, this abyssal entity is trapped underground, cast away from the heavens. This, in addition to the known hatred of Celestia by the Abyss, means we can tell that whoever this is the enemy of Celestia. So, if it is one of these descendants, then it's whichever one of them lost and was imprisoned within the earth of Teyvat. We are told through a scribe of Ishtaroth that this winner is the Primordial One, so if we believe that, then this sinner is very likely to be the Second Who Came. The Creator may have defeated him, but he was unable to kill him, and with that cast him into the Abyss where he was left for the rest of time, until the Abyss sibling stumbled upon him and let some of his power into them to use against Celestia. Now, this is quite the theory, so let's also consider an alternative with a slightly less important figure in the early world of Teyvat, but still a very prominent one of the Shades. We have 4 Shades of the Primordial One to find, and only one of them do we know about, that obviously being Ishtaroth. We should be discovering one of the other 3 sometime soon, mind you, given that we're almost halfway through the game now. It's hard to know what we're looking for to identify them, but there is a general rule we can use. These Shades are greater than the Archons, so their domain should also be greater than the Archons, like how time is a lot more significant than contracts or freedom. So, an element like life, death, space, etc. The Abyss could count in this list. I mean, it certainly wouldn't surprise me. Perhaps this Shade betrayed the others and was cast down into the Abyss, which kind of explains the sinister nature behind the Abyss Order. Either way, this sinner was banished to his prison by Celestia, hence why he is a sinner. It's just in the eyes of Celestia. In the same way Canary are sinners in their eyes, the people of Salvin Dagnir, the people that lived underneath the chasm, and more that we are yet to discover. He isn't necessarily evil, but the Abyss does have a weird way going about to the same goal as the Traveller. In the same way that the Fatui are also the good guys in terms of their goal, the way they just do it is evil. So maybe the sinner's a Shade, maybe he's the Second Who Came, but I do have a little bit more theory to add that I think will be very unique to this video. If you didn't know, Genshin is based on Gnosticism, an ancient religion that's a branch from Christianity. The closer to the overall lore of Genshin that you get, the closer related to this connection you get. So, you can make a lot of connections with characters such as the Primordial One being the Demiurge, Visions being the Divine Spark, and of course, the Abyss being the Abyss. Now, I never went to Sunday school or church or anything, but I've heard of how boring it is, so I'm going to feed you genuinely interesting parts of this religion that may relate to how this war between the Primordial One and the Second Who Came panned out. I liken this fight to the war in heaven, where Lucifer and his demons sought conflict with God and his angels. They went to heaven for this war where these heavenly armies fought. Now, I don't think that there were any enemies involved in the Genshin Impact version. I believe it to be a one-on-one affair. So how did that go down in its religious inspiration? Well, Lucifer argued to God, telling him how he's going senile, and to preserve his throne and power, he had to subjugate all beings under fate, as they would have no free will of their own. A fight ensued, and I won't waste your time with the details, but it said there were dragons, Power Ranger type morphing, just a lot of big fights. Ultimately, Lucifer was defeated and cast down to none other than the Abyss. In fact, the descension into the Abyss is said to have resembled that of falling stars, and when they arrived, this region became hell. Now, I'm sure you can already see a few similarities to the little we know about this ancient fight in the Genshin universe. A second powerful figure challenges the current power base, who is stifling freedom in their eyes, as well as who is fading in power. If you didn't know, the Traveler's in-game profile text states that the, and I quote, Keeper is fading away, which likely refers to the sustainer of heavenly principles. We are also led to believe in-game that the Primordial One was victorious in this conflict, so perhaps Phanes was unable to kill the Second Who Came and cast them into the Abyss, where they still lie to this day, meaning that the equivalent of the Second Who Came in this religious context is Lucifer and is still in the Abyss. And who do we know that is still in the Abyss? The only one is the newly teased person, the sinner. And it makes sense. Of course the equivalent of Lucifer is a sinner in the eyes of God. That's kind of the whole point. So whether this Lucifer sinner is the Second Who Came or a shade of Phanes, I think that this built connection is really helpful in seeing what had happened long before the Archons of Teyvat. Whoever this abyssal sinner is challenged the Primordial One on how they were keeping their own people locked up in Teyvat and not letting them free into the cosmos as the Descenders are, such as themselves and the Traveler Twins. In doing so, he was cast into the Abyss and locked up there, using what's left of his power to support the Abyss Order in enacting revenge and bringing down Celestia. Now, if I had to guess, I think that it makes more sense to be the Second Who Came, but a shade wouldn't surprise me either. It certainly matches up with the Fallen Angel idea a little better at least. It's also really interesting to think about how the demons descending into the Abyss looked like falling stars, because we obviously know that the Travelers were falling stars upon the land of Teyvat, so perhaps it was just the inspiration they got for anything above this world coming down to look like a falling star. So, what do you think? Could he be either of these two? Somebody I forgot about, or maybe just somebody completely new? Also, what do you think about the religious inspirations and connections it appears to have? It's a little more Christian than Gnostic in this case, which makes me slightly more doubtful, but I still think that there's enough hints to give this theory some real merit. Remember, we're talking about this overall lore of Teyvat's history, which is closely linked to Gnosticism. So let me know your thoughts, whether concurring or argumentative, and I'll be sure to get working on the next theory because I have a lot I still want to talk about that I haven't heard from anybody else in the community. I'm ready to make some huge theories and see where it can take us. So if you're interested in that kind of thing, then make sure to stick around. Until then, however, I'll see you next time. Chop out, bye.